My name is Barry Fernold, and I'm a lawyer at a major firm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Been living in Minnesota now for about 11 years. I practiced in Maine as well as in Minnesota. Altogether I've been practicing law about 17 years. I went to the American University Washington College of Law in Washington, D.C. and did some clinical work there, which was very valuable to me in my professional life after that. In fact, that was one of the most valuable aspects of my law school experience, was working in a tax litigation clinic. It gave me an opportunity to work with people face-to-face who had real problems, and it was also interesting in that it was a business application to a clinical setting. That tax litigation clinic is still going strong, and I was one of the first students involved with that program when it started up 17, 18 years ago. I went to Denison University as an undergrad, and I studied English literature, but I had a real interest in things visual, and I ended up going to the Portland School of Art in Portland, Maine, which is now called Maine College of Art. And during that time, I took a lot of intensive drawing and two-dimensional design work, as well as some three-dimensional design classes. And I went back to writing and English literature and ended up working as a photojournalist for about 10 years before going back to school to become a lawyer. I was first working at National Geographic Society in the educational media division, where I worked on educational products for children, and I did that for about 4 years. And then I edited the work of the official photographers at the White House from 1984 to 1988, and all of that work is now in the National Archives and in the Presidential Library for the Reagan Presidential Library. That was not a political appointment. I always add it was a documentary job. I think it's extremely important, first of all, when a client comes in, to listen deeply to what they have to say. And that sounds pretty basic, but given the pressures that we have, in the way that we work and scheduling our appointments and so forth, sometimes it's hard to get a client to really talk about what the real issues are when they come in. Sometimes a person will come in to me and they want to write a will. They say that they've decided they want to write a will, and when they come in, often what they're talking about is addressing some very serious concerns that they have about their family situation, and sometimes we're able to help them think through some different strategies about how they might address those particular issues right now. I have a client who has a daughter who has a gambling addiction, and he came in ostensibly to make provisions in his will to help her have some protective arrangement in place so that upon his death she won't receive all these funds outright that she'll take down to the casino. That's pretty basic, but what we ended up with is not just including provisions in his will, but he was concerned about how he's been viewed as the banker for his daughter. And we were able to work with an institutional fiduciary, a local trust company, and they have folks there who have a conversation going with his daughter, and there's some accountability that's there, and it's taken him out of the role of having to be the banker for his daughter, and it has enabled him to have a more full relationship with her, and encouraging. That sort of story, I think, is one that is it can come about if there's that kind of careful listening that goes on. And I in my role in that context, I really felt more of someone who was making connections. I knew people at this particular bank where he had a relationship, and they could help in this way. So that was a a small example of someone coming in with a grave concern and being able to respond to it. So yes, he needed a will, but he really wanted to talk about his daughter. This happens again and again, and some of the clients that I've worked with are interested in conservation and in the environment and sustainability, and that's been fun to be involved with. Those types of projects has a very long horizon because they're making arrangements where they're having conservation easements over their land that will enable the property to be protected for their the wildlife. In doing conservation planning, that can take several years. It can take many years actually to develop an appropriate property management plan. And this is done with representatives of the state and the county and the city working collaboratively as a team. There are organizations such as Friends of the Mississippi River that we work with who go out into the field and help people spot land that might work for conservation planning. Having corridors for the wildlife to be able to move between the rivers around here is very important because there's a lot of development in the Twin Cities area, and it's an ongoing concern that the cities have and the state, and I think that people have been very forward-looking. Many of my clients have taken advantage of some of the programs that are available through the state and county programs in preserving their land. There is a direct relationship between the painting that I do, much of which is done outdoors, and this listening. In order to be able to make paintings, I find that I'm getting myself situated and then responding to the scene that is before me, and as the painting unfolds, as the painting will keep changing, I'll keep responding to it. And my purpose in making these paintings is not to put them up in a gallery or to show them. I mean, that's not so much, that's not so important to me. It's more as a tool for me to be able to be present in nature. In order to be fully present to them, I have to be able to be grounded and centered. If my client comes in and is emotionally distracted or angry or confused, it's helpful for me to be able to draw on the resources, the inner resources that come from a type of a meditation practice, let's call it. I find that the sitting out in nature and being surrounded by beauty and responding to that is a way that I am reminded about what it means to be a human being and to be present to another person. Well, sometimes if I've been out on a Sunday afternoon, let's say, doing some painting, and I go into the office on Monday and I'm meeting with somebody who's having a difficult issue or challenge in their life, and it's an emotionally charged situation, I sometimes find that I can draw on those resources from having been still and having had those quiet moments to offer some sense of calm and to try to allow the person to just be with them, for me to just be with them and experience whatever they're experiencing.